1950s era Aquarium air pump, a Star air pump that was made in France. Apparently this is one of the very first diaphragm style air pumps, which is the kind that's still used today, that you buy in any pet shop. Instead of using a piston to pump air, it uses a flexible rubber diaphragm. Now, these were made in France, and apparently they're actually supposed to be hung up on the wall by this hanger here, rather than sat down on anything. And this is the first one I've seen in person, so I'm going to be opening it up and seeing what's inside of this. So we've got a couple screws on the top. Originally these would have had a blob of paint over them, so I think someone has already opened this up before. Okay, let's see if this will come off. Oh, there we go. Alright. Interesting. So this is actually a pretty substantial mechanism compared to what you'd find in a modern one of these diaphragm pumps. Here's the rubber part that actually does the pumping, and this would be vibrated to pump the air. And it looks like most of this mechanism is maybe riveted together, so I don't know if we're going to take it apart too much further. The diaphragm is actually screwed down here, but I don't think there's anything interesting under there other than probably a flapper to keep the air traveling in one direction. One thing that is kind of interesting about these is it has a screw adjustment on the top for how much power you're putting out through the pump. Now I'm not entirely sure how that's supposed to work, because I just see that the screw contacts this pad on the top of the vibrator here. I think what it does is when you screw it out, you are letting it flex more, and when you screw it in, you're limiting how much the plate here can flex up and down, limiting the amount of air it sends out. We're going to plug it in and see if it still works. Okay, let's see. What we've got is a flapper mechanism in there. I think that's what's disintegrated. Take a closer look. Okay, so I took the nut off the top there. I think we can pull this whole assembly out. Just like that. There we go. Yep. Okay, let's set that aside. Here's what actually does the moving of the air. And there's a valve here on the bottom of sorts. It's just a really tiny piece of rubber that controls the airflow in and out of that diaphragm. I'm not sure what is stuck inside the diaphragm that is vibrating around in there. I'm not sure I want to try and take this off, because I don't know if that rubber can withstand being pried off there. Okay, so this rubber is actually a lot more pliable than I expected. considering how old this pump is. It might be that this is replaced in the past. That might be why those blobs of paint that would seal the screws were scraped off. So let's see what junk is trapped in here that's been rattling around. Okay. So what's happened here is these are the remains of another one of those flapper valves. There should be another one on the inside of this, and it has completely disintegrated into little pieces. So this pump probably doesn't work anymore, or if it does, it'll work very weakly. I might be able to find some sort of material to make that out of. It's probably just a bit of latex, so maybe I'll cut a balloon or something like that apart to replicate that little valve there, and maybe we can get this working again. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken a latex party balloon and I've cut strips out of it that are roughly the size of the original flapper here. I think this is natural latex. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know if it's supposed to be slightly loose like that or not, so I kind of kept these a little bit loose on here, and we'll see how that works out. So now we're going to put it all back together and hook it up to an air line and see if it will pump air. Okay, so I've got the Star air pump hooked up to an air line with an air stone on the end, and it's in our fishbowl. We're going to plug it in and see if it will work. And there it goes. It is pumping air, and quite a lot of it. This knob on the top of the pump is supposed to adjust the air pressure. We're going to see if that actually does anything. I'm not really seeing anything happen. Well, maybe just a little bit. It is extremely noisy, so you probably wouldn't actually want to run one of these today. But it's also about 60 years old, circa 1959. This is kind of the whole beginning of the modern sort of aquarium air pump. Before these diaphragm pumps appeared, an aquarium air pump would generally have an actual electric motor, and it would drive a flywheel with reciprocating parts on it. It'd have pistons and a crank and connecting rods that would actually pump the air through it. And this just uses that rubber diaphragm to pump air through it, and those little rubber flappers are the valves that make sure the air can only go one way through the pump, which is how all the modern air pumps work. And I'm pretty impressed that we got this old Star to work. You know, it's been around for over half a century. It's probably been used for a good while, and it could probably go on for another half century if you could stand to listen to it pump like that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have one of these pumps and it doesn't work, that might be the problem we have with it, is the latex flappers have disintegrated. And I guess you can follow the way I did it to get it to work again. Although why you'd want to use it, I don't really know, but it was fun to make it work. Thanks for watching.